going, Knight fans? Welcome to the 2011 season preview of UCF Volleyball, along with the head coach of the UCF Volleyball team, Todd Dagenais. My name is Jeff Sharon. This is Holding Court with the coach, and we are only a few days away now from the beginning of the 2011 season, Coach. And as we look back on, the good things that happened in 2010, we move forward into this new season. What is your primary goal, I think, your overarching theme this season for your team?
I think number one is, we're looking for market improvement. We're looking for sustainable improvement. Something that we can really put our finger on and say, we made strides this year. And, heading into the year, I think there's a couple things that have to fall into place. You have to have returning experience. And that's something that, again, we're just not real deep on. We've got players that have had experience, but you still look at the lineup. We're going to be freshman and sophomore in the all-critical left side hitting positions. We've got two freshmen there competing in the middle, along with a sophomore and a junior. We're probably more experienced at the right side, and we're probably more experienced in the defense, which is a good thing. And we're experienced in the setting position right now too. And so we've got enough tools there that we can show that market improvements really that we're looking for this year.
Let's talk about some of that returning experience like you've mentioned. A lot of people, looking at your roster, you only have one senior in Rachel Vuitson, who did a fantastic job this year and did a lot of work in the offseason to make herself better. And looking at the roster, you see a lot of juniors, so it's obviously good to know that you have another year with these people, but they're still working for that. People like Angelica Crump, Meredith Murphy, Nicole Rydell, the list goes on and on. What are you looking for from some of those key returners? And we can go all through, throughout the entire roster to see who your top people are.
Sure, I think it's going to start with a setting position. We've had quite a battle this year because Marie Rigorova has really done a nice job in the spring and throughout preseason camp. But I think, the way it stands right now, I think we've got to go with Rachel Vuitson's experience. She really is. She's just more consistent right now. And it's going to probably be a situation where both setters will get some playing time. But right now, Rachel's really put herself in the lead, and I think everything starts with the setting position. We're running a much more complicated and complex offense this year than we've ever run, and that experience is critical. Then I think you go right from there to who's going to be your terminal hitter, and that's got to be Angelica Crump. And that's a lot of responsibility for somebody that was a part-time starter last year. Of course, she came on like gangbusters at the end of the season, but the reality is she was still a part-time starter last year. And then it goes in the other left side position. Right now we're a little bit banged up in that position, so I really don't know who's going to be our second left side player, but I'll tell you this, I know it's going to be a freshman because there's only two freshmen that are outside hitters. The middle is something, it's a little bit different. I'm kind of excited about this. We returned two pretty experienced players, both of which were top 10 in hitting percentage last year in the conference, and we have two talented freshmen coming in really nipping at their heels. And I really see a situation where we get to rotate the middles based on matchups and teams that we're playing. So we're going to be much deeper, not so much more experienced, but much deeper in the middle than what we were last year. Evie Avilde has really done a nice job on the right side, and I think she's locked down that spot right now. We brought in Lauren Corey from Australia she's got a semester of Canadian Junior College under her belt. She's going to really fortify that right side position, being 195 centimeters, as she says. It's 6'5" for the rest of us. But that's a lot of size out there. And she's, after about a 9-month layoff, she's just getting back into volleyball. So we really look forward to what she's going to be in just a few months. And I think that's going to really open up some offensive things for us as well. In the backcourt, we're solid. We bring everybody back. Meredith Murphy, again, I think has won out on the starting libero job. Danny Harrison's done a great job, and she's now the libero in waiting. Roxy Mendez, after a brief hiatus, has come back to the team, and she's picked up right where she left off. So we're solid and experienced in the backcourt, and I think that's something that's really important for us as we run a much more complicated offense this year.
When I look at some of those newcomers, and we saw some of them really show their stuff quite well in the two scrimmages we saw last week, I was really impressed with people like Delana Sard and like Ashley Galinos. Lauren Corey, like you mentioned, coming in at 6'5". What are we going to see from those newcomers? Who are you really looking forward to stepping up this season?
Well, I think they're all going to have to step up. I really think in the middle we need depth. If you look over the last 3 years, that was a position we had good players, we just never had a lot of depth. And that's the position that seems to get injured the most because of the pounding the body takes, and you have to have that kind of depth. First of all, to avoid the injuries, and then when you do have the injuries, you have people that you can plug in. So I think they instantly give us depth, and they instantly give us athleticism. Easily the two freshmen are the more athletic, but certainly Tori McCutcheon and Nicole Rydell are the more experienced. And when you go back and you watch on film, and the freshmen hit the highlight shots, but when it comes down to it, the experienced players are the ones that are making the right blocking reads, and they're making the right commit blocks, and they're making the right releases, and all the little things that middles have to do. And sure, the freshmen will eventually be able to get there. Right now, they're hitting a lot of highlight shots, but I think the experience is more important for what we're trying to do right now.
What's been the biggest difference this team heading into the season as opposed to last season mentally in their case?
Yeah, someone else had asked me that question, and I just did not have a good answer. I don't know that there is a big difference. I think that this group is built on what the previous groups have done. I think that this group has tasted success. They've tasted what it's like to beat some people in some bad places, hostile places, I guess, and that has really fed their hunger. So instead of wondering if they're good enough to win, I think now they know that they're good enough to win. Now it's a matter of going out and doing it. And that's a progression for a program to go through. That's one of those major milestones that you have to do. You go into a match expecting to win versus, hey, if we do really well, we can win. One of those kinds of things.
So the raised expectations this year, and as we look at the schedule coming up, obviously when we look forward to Conference USA in about a month and a half or so, things are going to shake out very interesting. But more in the short term, you start the season off with the big tournament coming up. You've got South Alabama, Michigan State, and UNF, if I'm not mistaken, coming into town. And a good way to start, we've gotten off to some good starts a couple of times in the last few years. What are you looking for from this tournament as we head in on Friday and Saturday?
Well, I think this year's preseason, the proverbial, the price of poker has gone up because we've got some bears on our schedule this year. We're going to play Michigan State early on, and you talk to just about any Big Ten coach, they'll tell you Michigan State is the most athletic team in the Big Ten, and they're anxious to prove themselves this year that they're a top 25 team. So that's going to be a really hungry team that we have come in that we're going to have to face on that Friday night. We really don't know a lot about South Alabama. But that's one of those teams that you have to respect coming in because, again, they're looking to get their season off 1-0 as well. North Florida, it's a crapshoot. Anytime you play an in-state school, they want to beat you, and we want to beat them. And we've had some success against them the last couple of years, but they're maturing, and they're a lot like us. It's just a young team. And, it's going to be one of those games that whoever has the least amount of errors is going to probably come out on top. And we really want that to be us. So that first weekend heading into Friday, Saturday, it's just not easy because you have the uncertainty of the beginning of the year. We have the uncertainty of the little nicks and bangs that we have already, the uncertainty of the inexperience combined with teams that really they kind of have nothing to lose and they want to come in here and start their season off well. So we're just going to go in there. We're going to take a shot. We go in there. We put our best foot forward against South Alabama, and then we take a shot at Michigan State. We're not going to get intimidated by the size. We're not going to get intimidated by the athleticism. We're just going to go out there and roll with it. And, hopefully we can put a couple strings of points together and play well enough low air that we, maybe have a shot at knocking them off.
Well, it should be a lot of fun. Bear in mind, folks, that the tournament coming up this weekend, Friday, UCF plays at 1 o'clock against South Alabama, 8 o'clock in the venue against Michigan State, and then Saturday, UCF takes on UNF at 7 o'clock. But there's going to be volleyball going on all day Friday, starting from 11 a.m. all the way through past probably, after 10 o'clock. And then Saturday night as well, we'll have games on at 5 and 7 over at the venue. Be sure to check it out. Pick up your tickets on UCFathletics.com. Now, real quick, as we look forward to the rest of the season, we're always looking at the conference. Who are going to be the big dogs this year? Tulsa's probably going to be up there once again this year. What are the early returns and some of the discussions that you've had in the offseason with some of the other coaches within Conference USA about how this is going to move forward?
I think you nailed it exactly. I think Tulsa's big time this year. I really think that here they are. They returned every single starter, and they were preseason top 25 again. And I think they're underranked. I don't know, maybe they're 23 or something. No way. They're an 18, 19 team in the country. They're really big time this year. And mean, really, I just don't see anybody being able to match up with them physically. Now, that doesn't mean they can't be beat. But, I mean, you line somebody up 10 out of 10 times, you're going to have to beat them that 1 out of 10 times. So, hopefully we put ourselves in a position to be one of those teams. I think the teams at the top of the conference are all in the same boat. They return almost every starter or almost every key player. SMU, Houston, certainly in that boat. I think all 3 of those teams have the capability of being top 25 programs this year. Rather not happens, they just have to knock off some teams outside of conference. After that, really, 4 through 9, 4 through 10, it's just really a crapshoot this year.
Sounds like the last 3 years.
Sure, and that's the way Conference USA is always going to be. You're going to have a couple teams at the top. You're going to have a huge hodgepodge in the middle. And then depending on turnover or inexperience, or you may have the teams at the bottom. But it's just going to be a really rough year in conference for everybody, just because you're basically playing a mirror image of yourself on most nights. And but that's good for us. I think it gives us a chance to go in there. Now, we were picked 8th preseason. I actually picked us 4th, and I'm not afraid to say that. My thinking is this, is if there are 7 teams better than us in Conference USA, we're getting at least 4 into the NCAA tournament this year. That means there's 4 pretty good teams.
Wow.
So I feel like we are as good as any other 4th team, and I know that's a bold statement to make. We lost 90% of our offense. That's an exaggeration, but it feels like we lost 90% of our offense through graduation last year. And we're just going to go out there and we're just going to roll. We're just going to let it happen this year. I think there's a lot less tension this year, a lot less worried about how we're going to finish, and just a lot more concerned with just let's play.
Last question as we wrap up. We always like to zoom out, take a look at the national picture. Give me 3 national teams that you're going to be keeping an eye on, that we should keep an eye on early in the season to see, are they going to be the big dogs in the national picture?
Well, I think number 1, you have to look at Penn State. I think everything starts and stops with Penn State this year. Anybody that's won national championship 4 years in a row, again, another team that's bringing back a good part of their team, they've got to be number 1 early on. I think the number 2 team that you got to take a look at is probably, I'd say USC.
Yep.
It's another team that, depending on how some things shake out, they could very well be a number 1 team in the country when we play them in a week.
That'll be fun.
Then after that, it's the usual suspects: Stanford, Texas, Cal, Florida. A lot of those teams, it's just going to have to wait and see how those preseason tournaments shake out and then how they do in conference. So I think it's going to be the usual suspects this year, the usual 6. But until proven otherwise, Penn State's the big dog on the block.
So we've got a lot of tests coming up this year and a lot of weapons with which to go into those tests. So it should be a lot of fun this year for UCF volleyball. That's going to conclude our season preview. Don't forget, the tournament at the venue starts this Friday, with action taking place at the venue starting at 11 a.m. UCF taking on South Alabama at 1 o'clock, and then taking on Michigan State at 8 o'clock this Friday at the venue, and then following that up with their 3rd game in the tournament. It's a round-robin tournament at the venue Saturday night, UCF playing UNF at 7 p.m. Don't forget, you can also catch UCF volleyball all season long on Twitter. UCF_volleyball is the Twitter handle, and also on Facebook, and always UCFathletics.com, where you can check out all the latest news and scores from UCF volleyball, and watch UCF volleyball live online. So, for the head coach, Todd Dagenais, my name is Jeff Sharon. Thank you so much for joining us for our season preview for Holding Court. We will catch you again next week on the back end of the UCF tournament as we head headlong into non-conference play here in college volleyball in 2011. Coach, thanks once again.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And we'll catch you guys next week.